is Jenny Mowe. I was a professional basketball player from, 2001 until 2004, and moved out here to Baker City with my husband and started our family out here. So once I became a bored housewife, I started baking, and it eventually has evolved into a very nice little cafe slash bakery slash coffee shop here in downtown Baker City called Sweet Life Baking. At the time, 1996, there was the women's dream team that came out. Lisa Leslie, Dawn Staley, I'm trying to think. Rebecca Lobo was on it. Just a bunch of Jennifer Azzi, a bunch of players that were really trend-setting back in the day. So I remember having that poster up in my room. And that was just really cool to be able to see women with muscles, playing sports, sweaty. And it was like, oh yeah, it's kind of a cool thing to do. For baking, gosh, I think it would have to be, my mom was a baker. We always baked stuff at our house. And then when I moved out to Baker City, my mother-in-law, very salt of the earth, she had her own cow. She was milking her own cow. She was making her own cheese. We had just had a son out here. So I was like, oh, I should try to, I'm going to try to make baby food. I'm going to try to make all these, like cereal. I'm going to make that from scratch. Like all this stuff from my kid, I was trying to do that from scratch. And that just led me into the world of blogs, which then led me into cooking blogs, which then led me into baking blogs. And it was just like, and there was so much information on the internet at that time that it really helped and inspired me. The biggest pivotal point of my basketball career was at that moment, going from this small town young girl, didn't really know if I wanted to play basketball or volleyball, to All-American over the course of probably 4 months. Yes, there's a pivotal moment for baking. When my friend Gretchen had come out here, and she was trying to help me start the shop at the Resort Street location, and I was very hesitant to open, for retail. I was just a bundle of nerves, couldn't do it. Nothing's perfect. It's it's not good enough yet. It's not good enough. It's too many things. I just don't know what could go wrong. And I remember Gretchen was just like, you just need to do it. Just open the doors and just do it. And whatever happens, but you just need to do it. And I was like, okay, so we set the day for August 9th. And we opened for the first time at Sweet Life Baking to the public. And that was a big one. That's been a huge learning curve, and trying to always improve on service and customer satisfaction and, the quality of product and everything else. So I was really into volleyball for a little while. But even before that, with basketball, I remember, I think we were in either 5th or 6th grade, and I was almost 6 foot already, and big girl. And I just remember that all my teammates, all my classmates and teammates, because it's the same thing, came out and they had uniforms, and my coach was like, well, Jenny, and it was back in the day, little tiny short shorts and little, and it was junior high size, and I was not junior high size. And so I remember my coach came out with this t-shirt, and it was totally the felted letter 1980s t-shirt. It said Powers Wolfpack on it. I was so mortified. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to do this, Mom. I'm so embarrassed. Because, just at that moment in time of being so different, and I was always the biggest and the tallest girl, and just being, not having a uniform that fit was just soul crushing. My mom was, well, Jenny, well, Jenny Lee, if you don't play, then the rest of the girls, you don't have enough for a team. And that, okay, fine. Yeah, that kind of got me into basketball and playing. And then I realized it wasn't so bad. And then, as it comes along, you realize that it's not so bad to be the one that's a little different, and that sometimes it has its perks, and it's very quirky, but it can be a good thing too. Biggest challenges on my journey for basketball, I would say coming from such a small town, because I came right directly from Powers High School to Division I basketball program, which was really hard. In Powers, I played one defense, maybe a handful of offenses that involved me underneath the basket, turning and shooting. And then in college, you have this array of different defenses, and you're changing on the fly after a make, miss, you're in defense. And it was just mind-blowing, as someone that didn't even really have the best fundamentals down. So that was probably my biggest obstacle. And it affected my confidence a lot, because I didn't have that basketball background that a lot of these other girls did, that especially the girls that were at that level. I'd had maybe two summers of AAU basketball, and then the rest was just playing with Powers at my home school. And so I didn't have, my friends on the team at my AAU team were going 6 hours a day in practices. They'd go 3 hours of training and then their high school practice, and then that turned into AAU practice. So there's a big learning curve on that. My biggest obstacle that I've had to overcome with baking has probably been having confidence in myself and believing that I can do it, which is just something that, if I do it enough times and I'm like, okay, I feel confident now, I can do this. It just comes with repetition, just like in basketball. Baking is the same way, where it's like, okay, I've got this down now. I feel like I'm good enough to introduce this to the public, and they'll dig it. And that comes with opening the shop too. It's like, I'm very, it drives my husband crazy, because he's just like, just Jenny, come on, we can do it. I'm like, no, not yet. I don't feel comfortably. Like, oh boy. So, I think just that confidence of really believing in your product and what you have takes a little bit of time. I think my career from a basketball player, naturally after I stopped playing basketball, I went into coaching, and was just kind of trying to, I feel like, stay, involved in the sport and just that team aspect of it. And so I coached up until 2015. And then, and that was about the same time that I started Sweet Wife in the retail location. And I found that having employees is also like coaching a team. And that was a really unexpected, because I always preach about that, when you're going through college, or like, athletics will really help you in your work environment, everything else. And it's not until you really have employees that you go, oh yeah, it's a lot of teamism. It's a lot of goal. Hey, this is our goal today. Getting people to buy into that goal. You have a lot of people, a lot of employees that, their confidence just tanks. You have to bring them back up. Maybe they don't get along with other people. Again, bring them into the circle. So it really has some great kind of intertwining aspects. It's not going to be easy. And you really have to develop that grit within yourself to be able to keep going. I think that's the hardest thing. Even when people knock you down, employees don't show up. I mean, there's been a lot of times where I'm just like throwing my hands up going, oh God, why am I doing this? Both basketball and with my business, there's a lot of times where you have that moment of, why am I doing this again? That mental check of, what, do I like this? Am I doing this? And I think that ability to be able to go, no, this is, it's only a tiny little bump. I have to push through it. You gotta keep that big picture in mind and be able to take that tiny bump in stride and go, okay, we're more than that little bit of drama there. And back in the day, I wish I could have taken that young girl and said, no one's gonna judge you for this. You're gonna be fine. I think that would have helped me a lot back in the day. Just even over this last year with the NCAA tournament and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all this stuff. I have to say the names. So, back when we were playing is when the internet was first coming out, and I remember just reading such horrible things being said about female athletes. I grew up watching Lisa Leslie, and half the time you couldn't even find her playing on TV. There was no women's sports on TV. So to be able to have these girls playing and having young girls watching that is huge. Sabrina Ionescu is another one. She kind of started this whole thing off where people were like, she's pretty good. It's like, yeah. And if you think about it, women's basketball is 50 years behind men's. So, and that's what people weren't understanding. When we were coming up, it's like, we just got to start playing basketball, 15, 20 years ago. Like it's going to take some time. And now we have young girls watching these games going, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And I think that representation is so important to inspiring the next group of girls that are going to come through and say, I'm going to do this move just like I saw Caitlin Clark do, or I'm going to do this move just like and that emulation is so important. And it's not something that we've had. And so the game change has been huge. And I'm so proud that we didn't listen to all the naysayers 20 years ago, that were saying just awful things,